You know that feeling when you work incredibly hard to invent something totally new, only to find out you've just recreated a classic? Well, that's pretty much the wild philosophical adventure G.K. Chesterton takes us on in his masterpiece Orthodoxy. It's the story of a man who sets out to build his own personal island, only to discover he has landed right back home.
Chesterton kicks the whole thing off with this brilliant metaphor. Just picture it. He sees himself as this bold explorer, sailing the high seas of thought, absolutely determined to plant his flag on some new, undiscovered land. The punchline of the entire book is that after this epic journey, he realizes the new island he's found is just England, the very home he left behind.
So what was this whole voyage about anyway? Well, Chesterton tells us he deliberately set out to build his very own worldview, completely from scratch. He wanted, and this is his own term, to found a heresy of his own. He wasn't trying to fit in. No, he was trying to be a rebel, an inventor, crafting a philosophy that was 100% uniquely his.
But this personal quest wasn't just random wandering. He had a very specific problem he was trying to solve. He was hunting for a philosophy that could hold two really deep human feelings at the same time. That sense that the universe is this bizarre, magical, even alien place, and the feeling that it's our home. How, he wondered, can we be both cosmic tourists and happy locals?
Now, to really get the England that Chesterton discovers, we first have to understand the shipwreck he was desperately trying to avoid. He believed that a lot of modern philosophies, in their hunt for pure logic, were sailing way too close to the shores of actual insanity.
And here, right here, is where Chesterton just completely flips our usual idea of madness on its head. We tend to think insanity is a lack of reason, right? But he argues it's the exact opposite. A madman isn't irrational. Oh no, he is the ultimate rationalist, a person trapped by their own perfect, unbreakable logic.
The mind of a madman, as Chesterton explains it, is like a perfect circle. It's logical, it's complete, it explains everything inside its walls. But it's also a tiny, inescapable prison. Think about it. If someone believes everyone is conspiring against them, every single piece of evidence, even an act of kindness, gets twisted to fit that theory. The logic is flawless, but the world has become suffocatingly small.
And this is the core difference. It's not the poet, the mystic, or the storyteller who goes mad. They live in a world that's open to wonder. It's the hyper-logician, the chess player, who's in real danger. As Chesterton puts it, the poet tries to get his head into the heavens. The logician tries to get the heavens into his head, and it's his head that splits.
This is basically Chesterton's diagnosis for materialism and other purely rational worldviews. Sure, they offer a neat, tidy explanation for the cosmos, this perfect machine of cause and effect. But in doing that, the cosmos they describe actually feels smaller than the real world we live in, with all its messiness, its free will, and its strange, unexplainable beauty. The explanation actually shrinks reality.
Okay, so if a perfectly logical system can turn into a mental prison, what's the key to staying sane and free? What lets our world feel as big and as wonderful as it really is?
Chesterton's answer is that sanity isn't about throwing reason out the window. It's about knowing its limits. Real mental health, he says, comes from being able to hold two ideas that seem to contradict each other in your mind at the same time, without needing to crush one of them. It's all about accepting mystery.
So the healthy mind, what Chesterton calls the mind of a mystic, has this kind of stereoscopic vision. It can see that we are shaped by fate, yet we're also totally free, that the world is a terrible place and also a wonderful one. By accepting these paradoxes, the mystic doesn't shrink the world down to fit their logic. They let their mind expand to fit the huge, contradictory nature of the world itself.
This contrast is really what brought Chesterton to his final destination. He felt that modern, materialistic philosophies were like those clean, well-lit prisons. They were logical dead ends. But the Christian worldview, with its weird mix of strict rules and total freedom, of divine anger and divine love, that felt like an open road, a story big enough for all of life's messes and marvels.
And this all builds to a stunning and, let's be honest, pretty hilarious conclusion.
After his long journey of the mind, our adventurer was finally ready to plant his flag on the new land he had single-handedly discovered.
So, after all that lonely sailing, after building his philosophy piece by piece, based on what just felt true about sanity and paradox and the human heart, he was ready. He plants his flag, he unfurls his unique banner, and then realizes with a shock that he is standing on very, very old ground. The heresy he had so carefully invented for himself was in fact Christian orthodoxy.
This quote just nails the irony, doesn't it? He thought he was this cutting-edge thinker, a rebel charting a new course for all of humanity. And instead, he found out he was just a humble pilgrim who, after a really long and winding journey, had finally stumbled upon the oldest, most well-traveled path in the Western world.
But here's the twist. For Chesterton, this so-called failure to be original was the most exciting discovery of all. It wasn't a personal defeat, it was a cosmic confirmation. The fact that his own common sense, which he developed totally on his own, led him to the exact same conclusions as this ancient creed, well, that proved to him that the creed must be rooted in common sense itself.
At the end of the day, orthodoxy gave him exactly what he was looking for from the very beginning of his voyage. It was a philosophy that didn't try to explain away the magic of the world, but actually made it deeper. It was a worldview that was both a wild adventure and a comforting home. It answered his big question by showing him a God who was both an alien cosmic king and an intimate, loving father.
And so, we're left with the very same question that started Chesterton's whole journey. You could say it's the ultimate test for any philosophy. Is your worldview big enough for both the strangeness of a distant star and the familiarity of your own street? Does your personal philosophy feel like an adventure? Or does it feel like a clean, well-lit prison?